Hi there, Otto. Great job writing more essays. So let's get straight into this task one and see what you did. This bar chart illustrates the number of new and second-hand cars sold by the Home Valley Car Group in 7 villages in 2013. The greatest number of new and second-hand cars was sold in Holmfirth, while the least number of cars was sold in Netherton. The former sold about 1,200 cars in total, and the latter sold about 200 cars in total. In all the villages, more used cars were sold, except in Longley Farm, which had a roughly same number of new and secondhand car sales of 200 respectively. The only thing I really want to change here is this section grammatically. I want to fix something here. So more used cars were sold, except in Longley Farm, which had roughly the same number. Okay? And then you didn't even need to write respectively here at all. You could have just said new and secondhand cars at 200, and that would have been absolutely fine. Okay, so let's move on. In Meltham, a significant number of used cars were sold than the new cars. Okay, I think you meant something different here. A significantly higher number of new cars were sold than a significantly higher number of used cars were sold than new cars. It corresponded to the amount of 455 new cars and 611 secondhand cars. Okay, fine. A similar difference, without the S, in new and secondhand car sales was observed in the remaining 3 villages. Slaithwaite and Netherthong sold about 200 new cars and 250 secondhand cars. Upperthing almost doubled the car sales of the 2 villages. Okay, no, that's not entirely accurate to say that it doubled. Instead, it would be better to say that it had almost double the car sales of the 2 villages. It's a little more accurate. Okay? Then, overall, there was a fluctuation in car sales in the 7 villages. Okay, now that's clearly an overview, or if you want to call it a conclusion, it is. However, it's a little vague. What do I mean? I mean that you could say something a little more specific. For example, although there were great differences in the number of car sales among the villages, secondhand car sales were higher in all villages than new cars. All right, so it's a little more specific rather than just saying there was fluctuation. And also, fluctuation isn't really accurate here because we're not talking about a dynamic bar chart. And what I mean by that is it's not something that changes over time. We talk about fluctuation when there is change over time, but here we're just talking about differences in 7 villages at one moment in time. So this, I think, needs to be reworded, okay? But other than that, excellent job, very nice. Let's move on to your next essay. Okay, and here it is. So let's get to it. The pollution problems are worsened nowadays, especially in large cities. In this essay, I'm going to discuss the reasons for this phenomenon and provide possible solutions. Okay, it's fine. It's, a 2-sentence introduction. It does its job. Let me fix a little bit of the grammar here. So the pollution problems are worsening nowadays, okay? Or the other alternative here was pollution problems are worse nowadays. Either way, it's fine, but this grammatically does not work. All right, so let's go into the first body paragraph. Rapid developments are seen in large cities to accommodate an explosive growth in population and economy. For example, the government in Hong Kong and Singapore have built a lot of flats and transportation systems since the past decades. Okay, first of all, the last time I checked, they didn't have the same government, so it should be the governments, plural, okay, have built a lot of flats and transportation systems in the last decades. We use since for a particular point of time, but since this is decades, it's a period, so you want to say in the last decades. or over the last decades would have worked as well. It involves extensive land reclamation, which disturbs the natural environment. After greenery removal and sea filling, the diversity of living organisms maybe here is reduced, because everything so far is in the present tense. You say involves, disturbs. So why don't you make this instead is reduced? The only thing that I would like to see here a little different is have like a nice conclusive sentence which links back to your position here. So you could have had something like, consequently, the needs to develop land and urban environments results in problems with pollution, something along those lines, okay? All right, next paragraph. Excuse me. People living in large cities usually pursue, you wrote the noun here, you really want the verb, okay? A more convenient lifestyle. They use many disposable utensils, plastic bags, tissues, and papers. Land pollution results, okay? Just results is fine here. Some of these items, okay? Them is not really clear what you're talking about. So if you had said these items, it becomes a little more clear. Some of these items are not biodegradable. Even if they were burnt, they would generate toxic gas to harm our health. This is reflected in the alarming air pollution index in large cities like Beijing and Shanghai. Okay, again, so here you would really just need like a therefore sentence to wrap it up. The government should play a leading role in drafting environmentally, I even said it automatically, environmentally, LY, friendly policies like to minimize land reclamation in order to protect the endangered species. On the other hand, they should encourage citizens to reduce, recycle, and reuse waste without the of. User-friendly recycling bins should be placed in easily accessible areas. We should change our lifestyle by using more reusable belongings like shopping bags and handkerchiefs. Okay, your suggestions are excellent. They're really nice. You've used a nice wide variety of vocabulary, and I think everything sounds great. However, the one issue that I have with this paragraph is that it's a list, essentially, Otto. So you talk about, you mention all these great things that the government should do, but it's just a list. In other words, you don't give me an example or an explanation or any kind of support really for any of them. So I really want to see something like why you think this is important, how you think this is important, something that makes it like a more developed paragraph and not so much of a list. Okay, so let's look at your conclusion. In conclusion, the pollution problems are worse in large cities in this era. So you needed something here to connect these two clauses. We should try our best to relieve the problem for the benefit of, here, our future. All right, nicely done. It's a nice solid essay, so well done. If I had to make one last little suggestion, the reasons and the solutions. Okay, basically you had 2 paragraphs dedicated to reasons. You may want to consider having 2 paragraphs for the solutions as well. And you could have easily done this if you had developed each of those solutions a little more fully. So if you had explained how that solution could help solve the problem, then you could have split this up into 2 paragraphs, and then it would seem more balanced. It might seem like a detail, but I do know that examiners look at this kind of stuff. So great job, keep up the good work, and I will await more of your essays.